Hi everyone, welcome back to Casey's Book Corner. I'm Kirsten, and this is your one-stop shop for book reviews, book lists, and book recommendations. Today, I'm reviewing the second in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Two Towers. So grab a chair, get comfy, get cosy, have a little drinky, and let's get on with it. Firstly, I would like to apologise for not putting a video out on Friday as I had promised. 2 reasons. 1, I was at the bingo, and 2, my technology brain failed me and I could not for the life of me record a video that didn't lag. So, yeah, apologies about that. I went in the huff just a little bit. But anywho, I'm changing up the format of my reviews just a little bit after getting a little bit of feedback and some hints and tips on what I can do a little bit better, and also to try and help my sanity and keep me on track. I do tend to go off on tangents, so I'm going to be kind of cutting my reviews into sections. I'll talk about the plot, I'll talk about the characters, and then I'll talk about how I felt about it all and what my overall review is. Hopefully it works. Let me know either way. And with that, let's get started with the plot. Okay, so The Two Towers starts up exactly where the Fellowship of the Ring left off. Now, where the Fellowship was really about the formation of this group of merry men, their discovery of the perils of the world, and their strategizing on how they're going to solve the perils of the world. This one is more right smack bang in the middle of the adventure. We're now following 3 individual groups of the Fellowship as they go about their own individual quests. I really liked this. I mentioned in my last review that I would have preferred to follow the journeys of all the characters rather than just being told about what their adventures were in dialogue. So my prayers were answered with this one. Following the different kind of groups also really leaned a little bit closer into my preferred reading style, because I was able to, it just kind of kept things interesting for me, and it was much more towards my normal tastes. So, with that, let's chat about the characters. Having the 3 perspectives, the 3 stories told simultaneously, really helped with the character development. I felt way more kind of connected to the other members of the Fellowship than I did during the Fellowship of the Ring. I really loved Legolas and Gimli's little bromance that they had going on. They, mid-battle have a bit of a pissing contest over which one of them has slain the most foes. I thought that was really funny, and it's really becoming a really cute, really loyal little friendship between 2 people who I think typically wouldn't be expected to be friends with one another. So yeah, I really like that. I also like that because there's a little bit less of a focus on Frodo, I feel like Sam is really kind of coming into his own as a character in this book. He is cantankerous, he's pretty grumpy, he's always hungry, he's always moaning, he's a little bit on the jealous side, and I really, really like him. I liked him in the last one. I thought he was a great friend, really loyal, but I'm really starting to fall in love with him here. I also think he may be a little bit in love with Frodo, and I'm there for it. I'm absolutely there for it. I think it would be a very cute, developing situation. I don't know whether that's the way Tolkien's going to take it, but that's the way my brain is wanting it to go. I also have to say that Gollum was developed really well in this book too. There was loads of like endearing little quirks that came out of him, some backstory, some kind of back and forth with his dialogue. And yeah, I was really, really starting to warm to him until I wasn't warming to him. And if you know, you know. And the last part around, if you've watched my other review, I mentioned that I was getting a bit confused between Sauron and Saruman. I think that's how their names are pronounced, because they're very similar to one another. This happened a little bit less in this book, but I think because it was focused really towards one rather than the other. So most of the mentions were just of one of them rather than both. So I was able to kind of more easily know who they were talking about. But they was still happening. And the same thing's kind of happened to me a little bit around Aragorn. He's also called Strider, and he's also called something else. And he was given another name by that Rohan leader man during this book. So he's known as so many different things, and there's occasions where he's referred to under two different names in the same part of dialogue or the same paragraph. And that was like, I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? So yeah, and I think someone mentioned as well, like, they were speaking to Aragorn and they said to him, now this is the Strider I know and love. I thought we'd lost you forever, or something like that. So does he have like split personalities? Does he act differently when he is in the mindset or persona of the individual characters? Or am I reading too much into that? I do that sometimes. I could be reading way deep when it doesn't need to be that deep. He just has nicknames. But yeah, it feels a little bit like there's more to it than that. Anywho, so yes, from a character perspective, people were really, really coming into their own. There was also Merry and Pippin. There was a hilarious point where two of the groups kind of came back together and met up again a little bit later on. And Merry and Pippin are just lazing around, stoned and a little bit drunk, while Gimli and that are all like, how could you be sat here getting high when we're like battling and trying to save you? And it was just really funny. I found that, again, you're seeing this bond between all these characters, whereas before it kind of almost seemed like none of them, I didn't really know any of them, whereas now I think I know them all pretty equally. So yeah, character development wise, this book is on fire. So from what I've read and what I've been told, I may be out on a little bit of a limb here, but I enjoyed this book way more than I enjoyed Fellowship of the Ring. If you've watched my other review, you'll already know this. If you haven't, you can go back and check it out. I really, really struggled with Tolkien's cadence and pace. That's not to say that I can't appreciate the prose and the world building that's going on, but my kind of default genre is thriller, which tends to be really, really snappy, and this book wasn't snappy, so it took me a long time to get into the Fellowship of the Ring. I found it much easier to get into this one. I think maybe the 3 storylines kind of helped me with that, and maybe I'm getting used to that world building and that cadence, and I'm feeling a bit more familiar with all my surroundings when I'm jumping into these books now. So maybe my immersement was a little bit better, but yeah, given what I've said about the character development, I really enjoyed a lot of that. I felt like this book wasn't quite so heavy on the dialogue. There wasn't quite as much lore to be bringing into it that there was in the first one. So I really, really enjoyed it. It was still a bit slow at the start and in bits, but that was way less noticeable for me this time round. So I give it 4 stars. on its own credit. It's not gotten any stars just because it's Tolkien or just because it's Lord of the Rings and everyone's meant to love it. These are 4 stars just from me, because that's where I think that book fell for me. I really surprised myself, to be honest, quite liked it. And that's a wrap for another review. I'm going to be back again on Wednesday and Friday this week. As always, I'm here on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Apart from last week was a blip. I have just finished reading or listening to The Tunnel Rats by Stephen Leather, and I read last week The Phantom Limb, I think it's called, by Lucinda Berry, so I will get reviews out for those shortly. Check out my blog, have a little look at what I've been reading recently. Let me know if there's any particular book you want to hear my review on. Give that little subscribe button a little tap for me. Give me the thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. And yeah, happy reading in the meantime, and I'll see you in a few days' time. Cheerio!